Hey everyone, Jim McCauley with Faith Curious. Hey, I'm back with another Bible short. Today I want to talk about the Apostle Paul. We've been talking about reading the Bible, we've been talking about reading the New Testament, and you should just be aware of who the Apostle Paul is because he writes anywhere from 25 to 50% of the New Testament. Okay? Um, Again, to break down the New Testament, you have the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, written by the disciples and or people that were close to the disciples or close to Jesus. And then you have some other short books that are also written by some of the same people, but you have a bunch of letters, letters to different churches for different reasons, to encourage them, to rebuke them, to teach them. And that's in general, that's kind of the New Testament, all right? The Apostle Paul, like I said, writes a big chunk of the New Testament, so you should be aware who he is. And you will find him in Acts, A-C-T-S, chapter 7, and at the very end, okay? And what's going on at the end of this chapter, I'll just tell you real quick, is Stephen, who's a disciple, a preacher, a teacher, a follower of Jesus, is stoned to death by a group of people because of what he's preaching about Jesus. The very last line in chapter 7 is, and Saul approved of their killing him. And then chapter 8 goes on to tell Paul's story. Don't be confused. Saul and Paul, same person. Saul is like the Hebrew name, and Paul is more of his, I guess, Roman name. Paul and various other leaders were persecuting the Christians, right? They were preaching against their faith, so they put them in jail. They stoned them, killed them, all kinds of horrible things because of what they believed. Paul was one of these guys, okay? Until Paul is on the road, he's on a road going to Damascus. All right, now we may know that phrase today, the road to Damascus, which is it kind of means someone's on a personal journey that where they have an awakening. All right, obviously that's where this comes from. Paul is on the road with a small group of other people walking to Damascus. So Jesus presents himself to Paul and his group, and he's like, "Hey, Paul, what are you doing? Like, why are you persecuting me? Okay, why are you persecuting me?" And from that encounter, Paul changes. From that point forward, he is one that has brought more people to Jesus than anyone in the history of the world. He spends the rest of his life um, teaching about Jesus, preaching about Jesus, traveling all across the world at that time to different countries and starting churches. So that's who Paul became. The rest of his life was about Jesus and teaching about Jesus and that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. A couple things. A conversion like that can only happen because of Jesus, right? Jesus made that happen. All right. Number two, when he had this encounter with Jesus, understand something. Jesus had been crucified, right? Buried, rose, ascended about 2 years before this meeting with Paul. All right. So, Jesus came back and said, you know what? Here's the guy that I'm going to use. Um, and he did. So, all that to say, as you're reading the New Testament, you're reading these different letters and books. You'll notice some of them are written by Paul, a lot of them, and that's his story. It's a great story. It's a cool story. Check it out. Acts chapter 8. All right. Thanks. Take care. Have a good day.